Now that I'm switching to the role of an independent contractor, one of the things that I'm finding that I need to do is I need to keep track of my hours and how long I'm working for each client. For the last 15 years or so, I've been a salaried employee, so having to do this is something that wasn't even in the back of my mind. But as an independent contractor, this is something that is essential to my business and getting paid properly and on time. So, one of the things that I did is I started looking at all the software that was out there that allows you to do this. Now, all of them are paid for softwares, at least the ones that I was looking at. The free ones were okay, but they didn't necessarily fulfill the needs of what I was looking for. So I ended up settling on Harvest as the one that I was going to go with. But being someone who works with computers all day and spends a lot of time on their iPad, I thought to myself, I should be able to figure out how to do this without having to pay someone else. And that's what I ended up doing. I spent a weekend putting together some shortcuts and some tools in iOS that allow me to track my time and to create invoices based on that time that I'm working. And so I just want to share that with you so that you can see how I have things set up and see if it's something that's going to work for you. Now, I will say as a caveat, this is something that's very simple because my needs are very simple right now. I only have billable hours. I'm not tracking anything other than the hours that I'm working. And so with that, that's what I'm working with. And I'm only using a handful of apps to do this. So I'm using the calendar app, I'm using Data Jar, Shortcuts, and Charty. And so the combination of these apps are going to allow me to do what I need to do. And it's really just the first three that are going to be what you need. So we're going to start with Data Jar. So in Data Jar, the first thing I do is I set up a new list of all of my clients. And so I have that right here. And then in this list, I have dictionaries for each of these clients. So I'll go to index number 3, which is a sample client that I've set up. And so I have these text fields set up. So I have the name, which is just the name of the client, their address, my billable rate, a short name, and the short name is only going to be used as something that I use to give a unique ID to the invoice, and then the name of the project. So this is just the name of the project that I'm working on for that client. And that's pretty much all I have in Data Jar. And this information is going to populate some of the things that I have set up. And then over in the calendar, what I do is I have a calendar set up called like timesheet tracking or timesheet logging. Don't remember exactly what I have it called, but I have that calendar set up, and that calendar is where I'm going to keep track of all my time for all of my clients. So with all of that set up, let's go over to the shortcut. So in the shortcut, you can see that I have 3 different shortcuts set up. I have timesheet logging, get hours worked, and then chart reports. Now we're not going to talk about chart reports because that's something that's specific to one of the clients that I have, and for time logging, it's not really necessary. So we'll talk about the first 2. The first one is timesheet logging. So if we go into that one, basically what you're doing with this script is you're just getting a list of your clients, and then from there you're choosing the client, choosing how many hours you worked, and then it puts it into the calendar. So we're just going to run this a couple of times and put in some hours for the sample client. So we just tap on it. So we're going to say a sample client. We'll just say I worked 8 hours. And then it brings up the calendar. And with the calendar, you can choose the date that you want to work those hours. So let's say I did this on Monday. Now the time isn't necessarily essential. If you want to be able to track your time on it specifically, you can do that. But for my purposes, the time doesn't really matter. So I just leave that defaulted to 7 a.m. Then we click done. And then it gives you a little dialog. Added 8 hours to sample client on January 11th, 2021. And let's just go in and add a few more hours. And that's it. And what that does is it puts those entries into the calendar for that day with the title of that entry, the name of the client. So then what we do is we use the shortcut get hours worked. And this has a lot of logic built into it. And this is also used to build the invoices. So it starts off with just some text fields. So it's asking for your name, your address, and then pretty much everything else from there is a series of if statements that are built out to parse the data that you're requesting. So let's just run this. So first it asks you which client do you want. So we'll say sample client. And then it asks you for a range. And this range is based on specifically what I need to check. So I want to be able to check the hours for the given week. And then for one of my clients, I bill them every 2 weeks. So I want the last 2 weeks. And then for another client, I bill them monthly. So I have a this month to get the number of hours I worked. And then if for whatever reason I'm doing that invoice late, I can go and grab the last month. So for our sample client, let's just say we want this month. So we tap on that. It gives you a dialog. You work 22 hours this month for sample client. Click OK. And then it asks you if you want to create an invoice. So in this instance, we will say yes. And then it generates the invoice for you. Now, this is just a very simple invoice that I created using just some HTML. And so it grabs the from field, which pulls in your name, your address from the data in the shortcut, and then it pulls the client's information from data jar, and then it creates the invoice ID, the issue date, the due date. For me and my purposes, those are the same because it's always due upon receipt. And then it gives you a description. So the name of the project, the name of the current month, the number of hours I worked, my rate, and then the total cost and the amount due. So then I can click done. Then it pops up a dialog to save it as a PDF. It already has the name, and this uses the invoice name. So I can save it wherever I want to in iCloud or on the iPad. So then I have that, and I can just mail it off to my client as I need to. So that's pretty much what I have set up. And like I said, this is a very basic setup for me because right now all I have is billable hours. I'm not necessarily itemizing things, which is why the invoice itself is very simple. But if I ever get to the point where I need to do that, it's very easy for me to go in, edit the shortcut to add those things, and to track it differently in the timesheet logging. It's very simple to set up. So that's what I have. And I've included the links to both of these shortcuts if you want to download them, use them yourself, tweak them. And if you do tweak it, I'd love to see what you do with it. But that's all I've got for now. So until next time, grace and peace.